Is the World Wide Web crumbling? Is the 25-year-old party that it's been having actually coming to a standstill? Is the mobile roaring ahead and is the WWW actually imploding within? Well, those are some of the points that we made, but today I have a guest, and I have to say one of the biggest guests we've had on the show, not because of the fact that he's very tall, but because he's the worldwide CEO for Opera, and they are a big player in this entire game. So I'm going to start off straight by putting it through. The question is the World Wide Web crumbling?
Not at all. There's no doubt that what we have seen is that apps, native apps, has been the dominant on smartphones. But I strongly believe that the World Wide Web will kick back, and you'll see many more developers moving away from having to make apps for one operating system, another operating system, maybe a third and fourth operating system. Now with the technologies being available on the web also to create this native experience. So basically they will move to the web and start making their apps browser-based, web-based, and then they don't have to support 4 or 5 different operating systems. People use apps, but they also use, the web. And I think there will be a transition for developers and an interest to start making the apps on the web and not only making native apps on different operating systems.
At this present moment, while people may use a lot of web browsing, it's usually done on a larger screen. And at this present moment, the momentum is all with mobile and portable devices, which even if you call a 5-inch not a very, very big screen, but it's still not very conducive to browsing on a mobile phone. And if you take that whole momentum and say it's all going mobile, then most mobile apps would be the de facto standard for me to go to, right? There are a lot of problems with apps also, but we'll explore that. But for you to say that this is going to be a transition back again to this thing, is that more said with hope or with conviction?
Well, I think it is says with conviction, because I think when we start seeing apps coming along, then it was all true. But now with the technology you have through HTML5s, WebGL, where you can do the same multimedia things on the web as you can do in a native app. You can create this native experience on the web. I think it will take some time before we see significant trends, but there are certain reasons for why you'll see developers also moving away from the ecosystems, which are basically being regulated by major players like Apple particular, and also Google.
Now, a lot of people would say that the web, if it's taught us something in the history of 25 years, is that it'll always reward. People will always reward success to something that is easier to make, that's the developer part of it, and something that is easier and better performing on the device that they use. Would you, with the hand on your heart, be able to say that it's easier for developers to make HTML5 mobile apps, as in open on the web, versus something that is hard-coded? And for the consumer, would an HTML5 web app run better than a native app on their phones?
In the past, it was easier to make apps for developers. Giving the new tools available, HTML5, WebGL, as mentioned a few, then it's becoming as easy to do this on the web. And there's always a transition. You need followers, and we're starting to see these followers. So I think there will be a transition. In addition, it's not about it's only native apps or the mobile web. People are using the mobile web. It's very few people who is only on Facebook in the app. You'll find some of them, but people still want to go to the children's school's homepage, and they probably do not have an app. They want to check out their friend's home site. They do not have an app. So today, there's a majority watching native apps, but most people are also on the web.
Now, let's come down to that war between Apple, the closed system, Google, the open system, or at least the myth of Google always being completely open. Right? So both have a business model and a profit motive behind the entire war that is currently on between them. Apple, obviously, with their app ecosystem and their complete and absolute garden wall approach of, like you said, if an app comes in and they don't like it, they can just say no. But if I want a website for my own name, they can't. I can open as many as I like. Open versus completely closed. But Apple's doing all of this and regulating it to the point that they do, because there's money to be made out there. Huge sums of money, right? Google has a similar motive. I mean, the biggest problem is that on apps, you can't do a very good search. So In a war where it may be profit motivated, do you really see the better side will win?
But there's no guarantees for that. So I cannot guarantee how it rolls out.
Okay.
So I admit there's also certain hopes, but it's not like the web will die or anything like that. I don't think you'll see that. It is very important to keep the web open. The web has really made people's lives better in many areas, right? So at Opera, we think that to access the internet is a universal right. And it's very important to keep that open.
If you're looking at this purely in terms of us, the user, I would go out and say maybe 95% of people that use apps and the web through a browser right now don't really understand the fact that they are gaining or losing something. When they use an app, that they're actually dialing into a closed ecosystem, and when they're using web or an Opera browser or something like that, they are actually encouraging openness.
Yes.
So when 95% of the world isn't even
Right.
aware of it,
Right.
why would they fight for it? And it really comes down to all of us are very selfish about
Yes.
technology and usage. If I believe my experience is better with an app, even if I'm educated about it, I'd be like, that's cool.
I think the key here is the developers. And I think one of the issues we have seen is that it was easier to develop native apps on mobile phones.
Correct.
So in order to attract developers to come over and start building more web apps, we had to make the technology available. It's finally arrived. And now we struggle a little bit to make it aware, because they have to move from something to something. That's a struggle. But there are some motivation that's not just, let's say, more, more visionary things like keeping the web open and it's good for the society, etc. It's also like if they move over to the web, they don't have to pay 30% commission of what they make on the web.
Okay.
So that's one incentive, right?
Okay.
The other incentive is that they do not have to support 4 or 5 different platforms. Most important, now the functionality is available for developers. And that's going to make the trick.
So you're saying the tipping point may well come and then we'll see some momentum.
Yes, I
Right?
think so. And I think it's interesting. You also keep in mind that in America, people went from feature phones to iPhones overnight. And everybody started making native apps. So it's not a surprise this will take some time. This transition will take some time. But again, the functionality on the web is now competitive to native apps, even advanced in many ways. There's less work putting available for developers, and there's more money to be made there. So I'm very optimistic.
So those are two good things to put together in the same
Yes,
sentence.
exactly.
You work lesser and you make more money.
Yes.
That'll work every single
Yeah,
time,
because
right?
that's motivates developers, to make it easy and to make more money. That's how you motivate them.
You're here in India to celebrate the fact that you have 50 million users. And you did see my jaw drop. Just before the camera started, you told me that number, and I'm like, wow. And then I thought about it, and I thought, okay, a lot of those people would be on feature phones because you have a very compelling browser that is available on feature phones.
Yes.
So one, amazing that you have 50 million users here. Not so amazing would be that those people will all move from feature phone to smartphones, because we are called the greatest nation in transition from feature phones to smartphones, and we'll beat every single person till 2018, every country. You think you'll lose numbers or will you gain?
I have evidence that shows I'm not losing these users, and that's the amazing thing. Worldwide, we have 300 million mobile users using the Opera browser every month. This makes us one of the biggest internet companies in the world. The biggest country we have is India. We have 50 million users here. Half of our users worldwide are smartphone users. So we are successfully migrating our users from feature phones to smartphones.
Now, Opera's always done things different. You also do some radical things. You take risks. It's the reason why you are where you are. How come there's no Opera OS, and why did you miss that bus?
So we actually tried. 2007, 2008, we tried to make web-based apps. We made a platform it was called Opera Unite. It failed.
Okay.
It lost against Android, iPhone, who came at the same time. And that was sad, of course, for us to see. But it was also sad to us to see that we lost a little bit the edge, like 12 months, on making web browsers. So we found out what we're good at Opera is to make web browsers. And we will devote all our time to do that going forward.
If I was to say, describe to me Opera 2.0 2 or 3 years from now, what will be the 2 or 3 things that we should be very excited about that's about to come?
So we're going to continue to make Opera the fastest and the most secure browser. and we want to get people connected. So we're going to continue to get people online in remote cities where network is not as advanced as the big cities and where people do not have smartphones. So that's a key priority for us.
I started by asking you, so is the World Wide Web crumbling? I'm going to end by again asking you, do you believe that there is any chance in the near future that all of what we spoke about could be a gamble and it didn't work out, or is there no chance at all? Can the World Wide Web in the next 5 years crumble?
The World Wide Web is available, is alive and kicking, and now the functionality is also there. You will see developers moving from native apps over to the web in the coming years.
Fantastic. Thank you
you
so much. Fantastic talking to you.